I'm going to invite Matt to come on up. Matt, I'm not sure we have ever we've ever had overtime together. For those that don't know, Matt, he oversees our communications department and also happens to be our son, which we are just I'm not sure thrilled is the right, I'm just so proud of you because I've shared stories over the years of when you were little. And the pride was to come because of some of the things you were doing. It was like I needed an eye of faith that he's going to be a great man one day, and you are. And so God is good.
Yes. And I feel like I've got, I'm filling Fari's shoes today too, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so Pastor Fari's in Arizona right now for the month of July with our campus there, and we're so thankful for them there. So from ordinary to extraordinary. Matt, I was thinking of you in particular because I think you did something quite extraordinary in your life. You were in university, and I think it was after year 2 of getting your degree, you just felt to be able to take a pause on that and go to Bible college. That is not ordinary. That's extraordinary because you had 2 more years to go and you purposed to just put that on pause because you needed a year for what?
Yeah, I think, I think for all of us, I think God puts us in these situations or times or seasons of our lives where he's maybe setting us up to go from ordinary to extraordinary. It might be a big change, like you mentioned, like middle of university, or it might be a small micro change that you make, just a little tweak that, changes your trajectory to a different place. But yeah, that was a big season in my life. And like you mentioned, 2 years into university. And it was, I grew up in a Christian home. I went to a Christian high school. And then went to university and started developing a new set of friends. I was studying business, but I was taking electives in philosophy and other things too, and really just kind of opening up my mind to different ways of thinking. And I think that after that second year, my faith was sort of challenged, like what I had grown up with. I was really questioning. I was like, do I really believe this? Is this just what my parents believe, or is this really what I believe? A lot of my Christian friends that I had at the time were kind of abandoning their faith and they were going a different direction. And so I was kind of being pulled in that direction too. And then that summer, I had an accident. I broke my back and it put me out for a long time and wasn't able to socialize the same way, wasn't able to be with the same friends the same way. And it had me thinking a lot about my future and just about what I believe in. And around that time, Carl Gustav, who's come to speak here a number of times, he came and he just was like, you should come to Bible school in Sweden. And, at the time I was like, I don't know if I really want to do that, but I put a challenge out to God and I said, well, if this is really God, then I gave him 3 things. I was like, my visa's going to come through, I'm going to find an apartment, and my, what was the other one? This school's going to accept me. And so I had like 2 months for all that stuff to come together. And so I said, if God does it, then great, then that'll be my sign. And he did, and it all came together within actually just a matter of weeks. And so that was my moment to go, okay, well, if this is really God, then I'm going to do this. And so I took a year off of university, went to Bible school, and so glad that I did. I think it set me up and set a foundation for my life. And even going back into university, finishing my degree, I think that year really set a foundation and even kind of just changed even the trajectory of my life a little bit. And I don't think I'd be here, I don't think I'd be working with the church if I hadn't taken that year off and answered that call that God gave me.
I think that's really interesting because now with the School of Missions that we have, there are people last year that did exactly what you did, maybe not in between university, but they put a pause on their university. Some that are planning to come this fall are putting a pause on university, or they've taken a year out of their business to do exactly the same thing. And I think you make a good point. That's what made an extraordinary move, a leap ahead, even serving the Lord and even being involved in full-time ministry. That's a huge step of going extraordinary.
And I know you guys actually had made, you and Dad had made a similar change. You weren't in university, you were just starting your careers, and you guys decided to, kind of in a similar way, quit your jobs and move down to Tennessee to be mentored by Brother Littlefield. And so maybe how was that experience for you?
Wow, that I think I think we can relate with Paul. Maybe you did at the beginning of Sweden too, but it was like the discouragement does set in. Like, what did we do? Our lives were set in a way, at least career-wise, financially, it was going one direction. And so to take time off, it didn't make sense. And so I think we can relate definitely to that discouragement that once we were down there, it was like, what did we just do? However, to the point of, who taught you? We had somebody teach us and to sit under somebody and mentor us, which is such a key point of going from ordinary to extraordinary, is to be around people that have done things you've never done, things that you've never even thought to do. We saw things in ministry that the windows were open to things that we had never seen, even though we grew up in Christian homes. We had never seen ministry to that capacity. And as a result, it put something in our hearts that we could see that we had never seen before. So I think that mentorship was really key, which you also had while you were in Sweden. And then I think the other thing is, who do you sit under? That point, like, what do you do to go from ordinary to extraordinary? Is the years prior to moving out to BC and Coastal starting, we lived in a couple of different cities, and we were really involved in church. And so it's serving on serve teams. That's doing that ordinary over and over and over and over again. During the week, on weekends, it was just like, okay, if this is gonna be our church, then we're all in. We're gonna give here. We're going to serve here. We are going to bring you guys as a family. We're gonna do this together. And I think that's one of the things for us today. It's not just attending church. That's great. But to go from ordinary to extraordinary, you have to go beyond attending. You have to put yourself, and it takes faith to do that. And then, I think on the third point, because when you do that, what becomes extraordinary is then you start bringing people with you. And I look at your team now. Now there's people that you're mentoring. You were mentored, you served, and continue to, both, but also now there's people that are behind you coming along that you're mentoring. And I think that's when living the life that Jesus meant for us to live is an extraordinary life, not doing it for all of those things. I'm sure, did you have times when you were in Sweden where, like, that you think back on, because I know we've talked about, have these times where you're just alone with God. You just have these times where it's you and Jesus. And that time alone with him helped you make decisions that you're making now.
Yeah, and I think, it's important to take that time. And you mentioned School of Mission. I think that's a great plug for, maybe, people that are here and you're in a situation in your life where you just don't have that influence even in your life where you're like, I can't, I don't feel like I can grow, or I feel like the influences in my life right now are preventing me from growing in my spiritual faith. I think taking something like School of Missions, which is an 8-month commitment, that you could still work and do it at the same time. But you're around people, and you're around, you're in times of prayer every day, you're around good teaching every day, and just developing those good habits and the repetition of it over time, I think, is what takes you from ordinary to extraordinary. It's just like, anything in life, you start small with a micro change. If you want to, read a book and you've never read a book before, it's like, just start by reading 1 page a day, and you just do that consistently every day, and eventually you want to turn the page and read the next one. And I think that's how it is with our spiritual life too. It's you got to start somewhere, and it could be a big change like School of Missions, or it could be a micro change that you make, and you just say, I'm just going to start doing that consistently every day, and then you just watch how God's continued to grow that consistency and that rhythm in your life.
Wow, that's really good. When you talk about books, you challenge me. I love hearing, because you're a reader and you read different books, and it makes me want to keep up with you in the reading. So, Matt, thank you for joining me on Overtime. I love our discussions well beyond this. You're a man of a wealth of information, and appreciate you being here. And thank you for staying with us. God bless you, and enjoy the rest of your day.